God said to Abram, you need to walk before me and be perfect. That was way back there, long before the cross, long before the New Testament, long before the Holy Spirit was poured out. And yet God expected that of Abram back then. If he expected that of him, doesn't he expect at least as much of us now? I think so. And I think we need to understand, too, that it's not going to be a walk before people that is blameless. It's a walk before him. He knows my heart. He knows your heart. And even though your heart may want to do everything that he wants you to do, sometimes your humanity is going to get in the way. And God understands that. And he understands that we are having some difficulty. Now, some other things I want to just throw in from chapter 17 here. One of the things comes out of verse 8. Sometimes, especially younger Christians may wonder, why is it that Christians are so emphatic about supporting Israel? Why are they so emphatic about supporting Israel's right to be in their land? Well, that's a very good question. And it's one that we need to answer. We need to answer it on a regular basis so people understand. And the reason is right here, chapter 17, verse 8. Look what God says. He says, the whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Now that doesn't talk about a temporary ownership or a temporary passing of title. In the Jewish understanding, property stayed in a family, period. So that if you had a piece of ground and you couldn't sell it permanently to somebody else, it would eventually come back to your family, because property stayed with the family. Property stays with the family. Why are Christians so strongly in support of Israel and Israel's right to be in their land? And why are they so opposed to the Muslims who are trying to push them out of their land? It's because of this. It's chapter 17, verse 8. God said, I will give it to you and your descendants as an everlasting possession. That's pretty clear. That's theirs forever and ever. It will be theirs. Well, now, as we're talking about this, there's something else that's kind of amusing. You got to remember now, at this point, chapter 17, Abram's 99 years old. And even though we look at it and say, you know what, he's going to live to be 175, so that's not really such a big deal. It was a big deal, because Sarah, even at 90, knew that it was past time to have babies. It was past that time. It was past time for Abram. So he's 99. She's probably around 89. And so toward the end of the chapter, it says that, it's kind of middle through here. In verse 17, God said he changes their names from Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. And the change from Abram to Abraham is really interesting. He's got one boy. He's got Ishmael. He's been exalted father, and so, okay, now I can see that. Before he didn't have any kids, and, she'd be calling him, hey, exalted father, who doesn't have any kids, come here, So now he's got a kid, and he can accept, I am exalted father, I got Ishmael. And God says, okay, now, no, I'm going to change your name. Your name is now going to be Abraham, which is father of many. Father of many. And so he's stretching Abraham's faith. And God likes to do that to us sometimes. Right when, you get to where you feel like God said, okay, this is where I want you to be, and you get there and you're thinking, okay, I can relax. I'm where God wants me to be. All of a sudden, God says, oh, out here, that's where I want you to go next. I need you to keep moving. I need you to keep growing. Keep reaching out. And so Abram, look at verse 17. God's already said, you're going to have a baby, and Sarah is going to give you a son. Abram falls down and he laughs. A lot of people don't catch this. Everybody knows about Sarah laughing when the guys are at the tent. But Abram, he laughed here. Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child of age 90? How about we let just Ishmael live under your blessing? See, God's saying, I want this big thing for you. You're going to have a baby. even though you're the age that you are. And he says, well, how about you just bless the one I got? Just bless. And God says, yeah, I'm going to bless him, but Sarah's going to have a baby. So Abram's laughing, but he's not laughing because he doesn't believe. He's laughing because, I mean, come on. A 100-year-old guy and a 90-year-old woman have a baby? It's hilarious. God's got a sense of humor. And so Abram's laughing with God. You know, at first he's like, really? Are you serious? Well, yeah, I am. Well, I can just imagine Abram having a belly laugh with God. It's like, wow, isn't that going to raise some eyebrows in the community, you know? So now, we jump from there into chapter 18, and we see the Lord appearing to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre, and you got these three guys. Now, this is what we would call a theophany. It is a pre-incarnation appearance of Christ, and he comes with two angels who all look like men. And by the way, there's a really cool note here. Abram comes and he treats them with such hospitality. And I think there's some lessons there for us about showing hospitality to people even if we don't know them, but just doing what we can to alleviate their needs and their concerns. So Abraham does all that, and he is very generous. But I want you to notice something that's really, I find really interesting. In verse 5, chapter 18, he says, let me get you something to eat. This is two angels and God. Do they eat? Let me get you something to eat. They said, okay, do as you say. So he goes and he hurries and he gets Sarah. They cook all this stuff up. They get this choice calf and they bring in some like cottage cheese or something and the calf. And it says, this is what I thought interesting. While they ate, he stood near them under the tree. They actually ate. Some people wonder, are we going to eat in heaven? I kind of think so. You know, I see things like this. Now, maybe God was just doing it to fit in, you know, but I don't know. He actually ate. And so while they're talking, he says, God speaks up and he realizes from the way he talks, it has to be God. Verse 10, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now, Sarah, bless her heart, she's eavesdropping on the conversation. He said, where do you get that from? Well, it's right there. Now, Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, which was behind her. Abram and Sarah were very old. Sarah was past the age of childbearing, so Sarah laughed as she thought, am I? After I'm worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure, the pleasure of having a baby? And God says, why did Sarah laugh? She's like, oh, I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh. Yes, you did. And Abraham laughed the other day too. There's nothing wrong with laughing. Sarah should have just admitted it. She should have just said, yeah, I am laughing. But Sarah's laughter was founded in unbelief, not in an amusement. And so she lied about it because she didn't want to be exposed. And so I think God is okay with honest doubt, like Abram. God, is it really going to happen? Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, all right. I'm good with it. Let's go. That's kind of funny, actually, you know. And he goes on. But Sarah, she wanted to hide her doubt. Don't hide your doubt from God. Talk about it. Because as you talk about it, it can get taken care of and God can give you assurance. So, how powerful are your prayers? Well, now God is here and the two angels leave. They're on their way down to Sodom because it's a pretty rotten place. And so they get down there, and before they go, God is standing there talking to Abraham. And Abraham starts out the conversation with God and he says, are you going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? If there's 50 people there, they're 50 righteous people. And see, what is he doing? He's trying to find out what's God's will about this. Is God determined he's going to destroy the place, period? Doesn't matter what I say or what I do? No, he's finding out, no, God, he's got an out here. And so he starts off at 50, and then he says, you know, I don't want to be so bold, but I've already started talking, so what if there's only 5 less than that? Would you destroy it for 45 people? God said, no, I won't. Not, you find 45 righteous people, I won't destroy it. And so Abram kind of scratches his head and he's like, you know, I've already talked to you about this. What if there's just 10 less? Now, can you imagine? I don't know. I almost want to say the audacity of Abraham to say, hey, what if there's 10 less? What if there's 10 less than that? And what if there's 10 less than that? And what if there's 10 less than that? And he stops at 10. He says, God says, okay, if I find 10 righteous people there, I won't destroy the city. And Abram stopped. And I have to ask myself, why? Why did he stop? I think he felt like Abraham's nephew, Lot, his wife, his 2 daughters, sons-in-laws, that's 6. They only had to influence 4 other people to be righteous. And in Abram's mind, he's thinking, surely they've done that. And so he stopped at 10. Meanwhile, the others, the angels, are down there in Sodom. And so how powerful are my prayers? Well, they're powerful enough that they can save lives. And we don't realize it, and you don't realize it, but God can and will save people's lives because of your prayers. And then the last thing that we're going to just touch on very, very briefly is what is the cost of compromise? Lot, you remember, as we've talked about, he's chosen very selfishly to move toward Sodom, very selfishly. And then he ended up living in the city. In chapter 14, when he was captured, he was living in the city. And then, now when we get into chapter 19, we find that he is sitting in the gateway of the city. Now, that doesn't sound like much, except that means he was now one of the elders of the city. To sit in the gateway was like their court. And so that meant he was a leader. And then later, when the men come pounding on his door at night, they say, you came as a sojourner, now you're trying to be a judge? You see, he had gone from moving that direction to where he was in it. He was in it. And living there and experiencing all of what was going on in Sodom. So what's the cost? Well, the bottom line is it can cost everything. Because not only did he lose his herds and his servants, not only did he lose all that, but when he finally got out, and had to be pulled out, by the way, because of the prayers of Abraham, they actually grabbed his hands and his wife and his girls and drug him out. But as they're out and they're leaving, they're told, don't look back. But Sodom, you know, you've heard the statement, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. You can take Lot's wife out of Sodom, but you couldn't take Sodom out of Lot's wife. And Lot lost his wife because he compromised. And not only that, I should have mentioned this. He went to his sons-in-law and he said, guys, you need to get out. God's going to rain down fire. And they thought he was joking. You see, the message that could have saved their lives was ignored because of compromise in the life of the messenger. Such a powerful, powerful truth there. And so he goes out and okay, he's lost his wife now, he lost all this other stuff. And then, as they're out in the mountain, at the end of chapter 19, we find that the girls, although it looks like they were safe, Sodom had gotten into them. And there's a very unfortunate situation that arises when they're hiding out and they're up in the mountains. And the end of 19, you'll read that both of the girls said, you know what, there's no guys around and our father's line's going to die out. So, we need to get pregnant with our own brothers, which is disgusting, but it's there. It's in Scripture. And so what is the cost of compromise? It can be everything. It can be everything. And we have to be careful that we don't lose all of the things that mean the most to us because we've compromised. Okay, any final comments or questions? Jen? Say that again?
It says both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said that they got pregnant with their brothers. They were carrying their brothers.
They're half-brothers.
That's why it's, half-brothers, yeah. That's why it's so revolting. Yeah, I say Sodom had gotten into the hearts of the girls. Gotten into Lot's wife, but it had gotten into the lives of the girls too. And They somehow felt like, and not only that, but I mean, Lot had adopted the cultural values at the time, because when those guys came pounding on his door, when the angels came to town, he went out to him and said, guys, he said, don't do this. He said, I got 2 daughters. Let me give you them. Let me give them to you. Well, as a father of a daughter, I could never, ever imagine saying to a wild crowd of men, under any circumstances, I would rather die myself than send my little girl out there. And yet he's like, no, let me send them out there. He had adopted the cultural values of the town where he was living. And that's a lot of the reason why compromise had taken hold of him. Any other comments or questions? All right, James, I ended with like 2 minutes to spare, 3 minutes.
Well, knowing tonight is your last night with us, Brother Barry, I want to personally thank you for your good teaching. I only wish I could remember 50% of it. And, I have to say, you're one of the best teachers I've ever sat under.
Well, thank you.
Truly. And I'm an old man. I've been a lot of places, heard a lot of people. And so I thought you might want to have a word to say as this man leaves us. And then maybe we meet over here at the altar and pray for him and send him on his way. I'm glad the man's going to be busy to keep him out of trouble. He's got a lot to do. Everybody have anything you'd like to say?
Nothing more than a heartfelt thank you.
All right, let's give him a standing ovation.